Hello, everyone. This is Rudy Carl Alexander. We are going to talk about the upcoming Money on the Source Seeker Hour. And the name of this episode is The Trump Economy and basically what's about to happen. So many people are concerned about Donald Trump coming into office. Me, I say what is, so you might as well prepare and prepare to prosper. And I have three of the best gentlemen to talk about how to do that. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Brother Zoma, how you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. How you
All
doing?
right, brother. I had to talk to you about what's going on with Bitcoin. I got a lot of information, and I think I see some bright lights in there. Uzoma, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name is Uzama Ra. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Always, well, ever since I graduated from high school, I wanted to be in business. So I went to the Marine Corps. I took some business classes while I was in there, and then once I got out, I started investing. I started doing some network marketing, some real estate investing. Got into gold and silver. And that gold and silver is what really got me down that the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I like to say. And that's what I like to focus on, teaching people how to get started with Bitcoin, how to earn Bitcoin every time they spend money. Because I think that's the way of the future. It's the best performing asset since it's been around since '09. It's been the best performing asset. So I just try to tell people, just get your hands on some, get ahead, because I know you're going to talk about the strategic reserve, but just get ahead of it. Get some before all that stuff come into play.
I got you. And we're going to talk about how you handle when you're talking to your customers, your friends, their volatility concerns. Dr. Cleo, can you introduce yourself?
Evening, everybody. Dr. Cleo Wadley, educational consultant, 30-year educator on all levels, elementary, middle, high school. Also, in my time, I'm politically active. I've been a precinct chair and an active member in the Democratic Party for the last 20 years. So, interested in politics and all things politics and current events, and looking forward to contributing tonight.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. As always, thank you. Well, Jeff, you were there in the beginning when I started this out, and we have talked about money and all facets of money several times, and it's about to be a new horizon. Introduce yourself, Jeff.
All right, so I am Jeffrey Hill. I'm the owner and founder of Hill Financial Group, a virtual family office. I'm also a retirement income certified professional. I love being able to impart a little wisdom and maybe some different ways to think about what's going on. So I'm excited to be here today. I know everybody out there in TV land is watching, are excited and on pins and needles trying to figure out what's going on. So thank you, Broody, for putting this together. I look forward to jumping into the topics of the day.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, Trump is coming into office, and many people are scared. I look at it as an opportunity. Um, and I think that's the way you have to look at a thing, unless you got evidence that makes that different. Look at it and say, okay, it is for me. That's the way I look at it. Now, Uzoma, you mentioned about it's called the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. So I'm starting with that because I'm excited about that. It means I believe that it has become a major player in the economic market of the world. So what the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve is, the United States is going to invest 2,000 Bitcoin, 200,000, excuse me, 200,000 a year for 5 years. So that's a million Bitcoin bytes. And so whatever happens in the market, they're going to be stable players, I believe. So, Uzoma, what do you believe that's going to do to the Bitcoin industry?
Well, I think it's going to legitimize it for one. People, other countries are going to start seeing okay, the US is coming in here, we need to get in here. And I think it's going to be a race. You know, people are going to be trying to get in. And that's what I mentioned earlier, you know, as individuals, you know, that's one thing that we can control. You know, we may not be able to control, you know, what the government is doing, but we can control what we're doing as individuals. I believe individuals should get their hands on some. And it's not hard. It's just about educating yourself, educating yourself on what it is. You know, people talk about, like you mentioned earlier, volatility. That ain't no thing. You know, volatility ain't a big deal when you know what it is. People make money off volatility all day long. It's not a bad thing. It's just what it is.
Well, I just want to describe volatility for a second. I put in 800, my crypto nest, whatever you want to call it, my platform went down to $120. However, now it's back up to almost $600. So it's growing, and I see that, and I'm about to invest a little more as I prepare. But talk about the volatility and continue to talk about the outlook.
Yeah, it depends on your time horizon. If you, a lot of people trying to come in and get a lick, hit a lick, you know, get in, get out, get rich. That's when you got to worry about volatility. But when you got a long-term horizon, you know, you realize, especially with an asset like Bitcoin, it's going to make those kind of moves. That's just what it do. You can't just jump every time and make a move. You got to be in it for the long term, 4 or 5 years. Anytime you look over a 4-year cycle, Bitcoin always is up. But you got to think longer term. You know, a lot of people, like I say, they trying to get in and figure how much money they can make and wonder when can I sell it. But you ain't got none yet. You got to get your hands on some first. That's what I try to tell people. Just get some and figure out what it is. You know.
All right. Dr. Cleo, are you familiar with Bitcoin? What's been your experience?
Personally experimented with it. You know, my take is that, you know, education is always good as an educator myself. And I think Black people have to be open to different ways of finance and different ways of currency and money and how to, you know, accumulate wealth. I think we just can't limit ourselves to just traditional things like just the dollar or savings accounts. Like I want to see Black people diversified in their ways of managing and dealing with money. So I think it's a good approach, especially hearing that the government is putting their hands in. I think that legitimizes and stabilizes it. And being early trailblazers is the best way to take advantage of such an opportunity.
Sounds good. Jeff, is Bitcoin getting legitimized going to devalue the dollar? Is it going to tear it up?
So that's several parts of that question. The first thing, the legitimacy of Bitcoin. So absolutely, there are countries, especially heavy in Latin America, that are extremely bullish on Bitcoin. And when I say extremely bullish, this is their currency now. And so I'm in Colombia right now, and there is a Bitcoin event this weekend. So I actually got to meet the guy and hang out with the guy that's putting the event on. And so we were talking about some of these countries like El Salvador, right? And so when you think about the debt that the country had, when they moved their reserves over to Bitcoin, they were able to pay all of their debt. And so a lot of times what happens internationally is people leave their home countries, they go to the US and they make a lot of money, right? And what I say about making a lot of money, the average income here in Colombia might be between $300 and $700 a month. Okay. And so imagine working 40 to 60 hours a week or whatever, and you bring it home $300 to $700 a month. Well, you go over to the US, that might be what you're making on a weekly basis, if not way more, right? And so they take that money and they bring it back to the States. Well, sometimes it's hard to use traditional methods to do so, but Bitcoin doesn't have to go through the banking system. And so a lot of these people are starting to use crypto to be able to send money back home, and then they can use a crypto wallet, a crypto debit card and swipe, or go to a crypto ATM, take the money out, and now they actually have physical cash in their local currency. And so the legitimacy of it is here. What's happening now with this whole new strategy is it's going to stabilize the price a little bit. So when you think about big government, right? First, it was just you and I, mom and pop, everybody kind of getting their little share, the little Satoshis, right? And then it went on to the institutional side to where now they have Bitcoin ETFs, right? And so when you think about the scales and how it's growing, and you got big banks, big investment companies starting to buy and put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and now when you start to think about the governments doing so, this thing is starting to get really crazy and really, really fast because the government can print. Our government will print whatever they want you to go buy Bitcoin, and now it has a stable reserve. So when you think about what that's going to do to the dollar, it could challenge the dollar dominance, right? And so the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Okay. And so the last 2 years, you guys might have been hearing about BRICS, right? And all these other countries trying to join in on BRICS, and all of a sudden, India or China, whoever, is no longer using US dollar as their reserve currency. And so what happens if Bitcoin becomes a reserve currency? Now, all of a sudden, we don't really need the dollar as much anymore. It could devalue. Okay. And so it's going to be widely accepted on international trade. And if the US dollar is getting less and less, then you're going to see some interesting things happening in the economy.
All right, okay. I want to go to you, Uzoma, and talk about ways people can get into this. What I know is Coinbase, but I'm sure you all know a lot of other ways. But I wanted to piggyback on what Jeff was talking about. As what I understand as BRIC being is a combination of countries that have come together to, really strengthen their economies. I think it's South Africa, India, and a few more. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, so you got Brazil, India, Russia, China, and there's been some other countries, Saudi Arabia, that have been added in, and now they're saying we don't necessarily need the US dollar. We can use the Russian, dollar, or the China, whatever, anything other than US, right? And so you're
Right.
starting to also see countries in Africa that are kind of following suit, and now they're either using crypto or not necessarily relying on the value of the US dollar anymore.
Yeah. So much stuff is changing. And what I see Trump doing is somewhat preparing to get ahead of that. Uzoma, how do people get in? How do you tell people to get in? I know about Coinbase. What are some of the other ways to attach to the crypto market?
Yeah, when I first got started back in 2017, I started mining. I was mining Bitcoin. That's how I got started. So, and that's, and it was easy back then. I was doing it from my cell phone. A guy turned me onto this website. I was able to open up an account, and I was mining right away. And that's what got me excited about it. I saw the little numbers going up on my phone. I added a few dollars to it. It started going faster and faster and faster. And I was getting some Bitcoin that way. But that kind of, that program went away. A lot of times in Bitcoin, things come and go. So you got to stay up on what's what. You can also buy Bitcoin. Right now, they have what's called a Bitcoin ETF, which is kind of like separated. It's like buying a stock, really. So you're not really getting the asset itself, but what you're doing is you participate in the price appreciation. So a lot of people don't want to be responsible for worrying about private keys and understanding what Bitcoin is. They can go buy the ETF and ride the price wave. But what I teach people to do is take responsibility and hold your Bitcoin in your hand. Get it in a private Bitcoin wallet. And I always talk about why we getting some Bitcoin. Let's make sure we understand what it is. So for my whole philosophy is earn while you learn. So I don't talk about investing. I talk about earning Bitcoin. I got a prepaid debit card that I share with people. Every time they use the card, they pay them back in Bitcoin. So anytime you spend money on food, pay your bills, pay your rent, your mortgage, whatever you pay, you earn Bitcoin back because you're gonna spend the money anyway. So that way you don't have to worry about volatility because you're not really investing. You're not really, like putting nothing at risk. You was gonna pay your bills anyway, but they paid you back in Bitcoin. Instead of giving you airline points or cash back, they give you Bitcoin back. So that's why I say you earn Bitcoin while you learn what it is. Because once you learn what it is, now you kind of like, I got something that's valuable here. I want to understand, like, how do I keep it safe? Because people will try to scam you out your Bitcoin, tell you to send it here. So you got to like understand what it is. You mentioned Coinbase. That's Coinbase Bitcoin. As long as it's on Coinbase, that's Coinbase Bitcoin. Until you get it off of Coinbase and get it into your own private wallet, if Coinbase wants to go bankrupt or anything, that's Coinbase Bitcoin. So people, you got to understand, when you have your Bitcoin on an exchange, that's the exchange Bitcoin until you get it into your own private wallet.
See, I don't understand about that part. I'm gonna start looking at that now, though. So you saying try to set up your own private Bitcoin wallet?
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit on how you do that?
Well, basically, to start off with, you can get it on your phone. It's just a download. It's just a phone app. When you got a small amount of Bitcoin, it's not. But once you get a significant amount of Bitcoin, whatever that is to you, you're gonna want to get like it's like a little hard drive that you move the Bitcoin to, and you take it and you put it up in your safe somewhere. That way it's your Bitcoin and nobody can touch it.
Okay.
You don't have to ask you don't have to ask nobody, can I send this Bitcoin to my family member anywhere you want to send it to? You don't have to get permission.
That's very deep. You have some more knowledge of that, Jeff?
Yeah, so Ledger, Trezor, those are different types of cold wallets, right? And so to his point, you literally have to put that thing in your USB drive to access it. So you can move everything over there. And when you think about it, well, there's pros and cons to doing that. Okay. One of the cons is if you ever lose that that wallet,
it's gone.
Absolutely. And so you need to be extremely responsible with where you place that device. Okay. And I wouldn't label it as, hey, this is my Bitcoin, right? Maybe color it and put some an app in your reminding your phone what it is, because what you don't want to do is like, oh, it's just an old, flash drive and throw it out. And all of a sudden Bitcoin has gone to $1 million a coin and you just gave away $37,000 or something like that, right? And so a lot of this stuff, when you get into this game, DYOR is one of the things you hear quite often. Do your own research, okay? And so something you've heard me echo throughout this is you never want to invest more than you're willing to lose. This is where what's called dollar cost averaging comes in, okay? And what some people do is just put their investments on autopilot. $20 a week, or if they go out to eat, look at the price of that meal and say, you know what, let me go ahead and buy some Bitcoin as well. And so when you start spending money, you also want to be thinking about the opportunity cost of what you're spending. Because once you spend that dollar on that meal or that whatever, you can no longer use it. It can no longer make any money for you. Okay. And so a lot of times you experience wealth transfers in the way you spend money. And so what we got to get in the habit of doing is start autopiloting what we do. Like I use Bitcoin miners and AI bots that does it for me. So I don't really have to think about it, right? And if I want larger positions, I just put more money in there. And every now and again, I might even simply do it on Cash App. Okay, simply because it's easy to buy it. Now, is that the most effective way? Not necessarily, but it's easy because you don't have the same transferring ability on Cash App like you do if you're using a Coinbase, Trust Wallet, or MetaMask, or something like that, right? And so a lot of this stuff is going to take you a little time to get comfortable and familiar with the language that we're talking about. But how do you eat an elephant? one bite at a time. If you just want to get in the game, go to Cash App, put 20 bucks in there and do, or if you want to keep the numbers easier, do
Put 20
100
bucks in where?
Cash App. So go to
Okay.
Cash App, click on the little dollar icon, and it's going to ask you if you want to buy Bitcoin, and it has a lot of numbers, 5, 10, 20, whatever. And
I didn't
so
know Cash App had that feature.
yeah, it's been out there for a while. Okay. And so if you're just starting out, do 10 bucks, 100 bucks or whatever. The reason why I like 10 or 100 is because it helps you understand the percentages. Okay. So if they said Bitcoin just jumped up 20%, okay, great. You can know I'll put in 10. Let me go see what that means. So sometimes we don't really familiarize ourselves with the number. So we don't know what 5% loss means, 20% gain, and all that. So start with a number that makes sense. You can easily track it and then get comfortable. Now, as you start putting more in there, it's going to be a little bit different because you got to do a little math if you really want to know, but you can see that account go up and down, right? And it moves in both directions. Okay. It's kind of stabilized right now around this 100K range, plus or minus, $5,000, $10,000, right? Is it likely it's going to drop back down in the 20s and 19s? Like, probably not, especially if countries are mass flooding into the market and they're trying to buy up as much as possible. But you also got to understand there's only a finite amount of Bitcoin that can be sold. Okay.
I found that out. It was 21 billion, I believe.
21 million.
Yeah,
21
21.
million. Okay.
And that is, there's not 21 million left. It's 21 million total. And so we just went through a halving event last year. And so what happens is the amount of Bitcoin starts to get smaller and smaller that's available. And so what that does from a supply and demand standpoint, it should technically make it go more higher because it's less. It's just like anything. If you out there,
Supply and demand.
yeah, if you selling t-shirts and all of a sudden everybody need a t-shirt, you can raise your prices because people want it. Same
Yes.
thing is happening over here.
I want to real quick mention Bitcoin is one product. It's the most valuable crypto coin, but it's one. There are many others. None of them have got to the level of Bitcoin, but the crypto.com center in LA is a crypto coin, a new cipher. I have that, Stellar Luma. There's a lot of them. So if you want to venture, there are other ones to look at also. So it's a very interesting market. But the most valuable at this time is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's the
So
most
so
valuable.
so so let me interject something as well. There's a website called coinmarketcap.com. CoinMarketCap. That website gives you a lot of data. I mean, there's thousands of cryptos out there. Some of them are what's called meme coins or poop coins, if you will. Anybody can go make a coin if they want to. Rudy, you can do the source seeker coin if you want to and put it out there.
Hey, that sounds great.
If people think it makes sense, they'll buy it. Trump has his own coin as well. Okay. So there's a little conspiracy theory about, him being, pro cryptocurrency because he has his own coin. And if he can say, hey, no, there's no taxes on cryptocurrency in 2025, you're going to see a lot of movement in the marketplace. A lot of movement in the marketplace. But just familiarize yourself with CoinMarketCap. You can literally click on all of these different cryptos and you can read what they stand for. You can see the white papers on them, the tokenization. There's a ton of information on there. You can even see the trading history on it as well. So if you want to just kind of do a deep dive, go spend some time on CoinMarketCap and familiarize yourself with it.
I sure will. It's a lot of interesting information. I'm really excited because I've delved into it and I saw the volatility which had me down, but I kind of see the upside now and the possibility. And with that strategic Bitcoin reserve, I know the potential of that. Let me talk about some other things of what's going to happen in the economy of Donald Trump. He is talking about taking over assets of other countries. He mentioned Greenland. He mentioned even Canada. He talked about taking over the Panama Canal. Now, what I think is these are kind of bargaining tools to get cheaper prices or different type of trade advantages and different things. What do you think? What's his aspect? Where is he trying to go with this? What is he doing? What do you think, Azoma?
I hope that we get the doctor back because he's a political guy. I'm not too. It's hard to read, what Donald Trump, his moves. Sometimes he say stuff, and it's like, is he serious or he just trying to, like cause a reaction?
Yep, that's
So it's
exactly what he's doing.
yeah. So it's kind of hard to figure out,
Well, with the Panama Canal, I think, he says they are charging American ships a lot of fees. So he's looking for a reduction in those fees. And, I think he's looking for trade advantages. Okay, you saw what I said to Canada and Greenland. Hey, y'all better come on and work some better trade with us, or, it's going to be, I'm going to come at you in one way or another. Also, with immigration or with mass deportation, that could have an effect on the economy. Now, I don't know whether it's going to cause an inflation or a deflation, but that's one of his main, things that he's going to bring about, and it's certainly going to have some type of effect. What do you think, Jeff? What type of effect is it going to have?
So which one do you want me to cover first? You want me to cover the
Both
mass
of 'em.
deportations? Okay. And so, Trump has always just kind of talked out of his rear end, so to speak. And so a lot of this stuff is just polarizing. Like Trump knows how to not necessarily win the crowd, but keep himself relevant, right? And so he understands money follows attention. Good, bad, or indifferent. So when you're doing stuff like this, yeah, people are going to be paying attention because some people are like, well, all right, can we really do it? Of course we can't, right? Like Canada would have to agree to sell itself to us, and that just wouldn't make sense, right? I don't know who the lady was, but she was from Canada, and she has some interesting things to say to Trump with that whole idea. Okay. And so what would happen is any of this stuff can affect the global markets and the trade relationships, right? And it could also increase prices. And so when you think about the tariffs, I like to watch the Daily Show to get my news, right? Every now and then I'll tune in to Fox. The reason why I like the Daily Show is because they put a comedic spin on it. So that's sometimes the only way I could like stomach the egregiousness of what's happening inside of the United States, because some of it is just so outlandish and people don't quite understand the tariffs. Like, oh, China's going to pay the tariffs. That's not how that works, right? Anybody who's buying something from China, our mom and pops, Brute, if you wanted to start a t-shirt business and you buying your stuff from China, that's you paying that tariff. Okay. Now, what essentially is going to happen if a small business owner has to pay more to get their goods and services to provide the service for the end user, do you think they eat that cost or do they pass it on to the client? They pass it on to the client. And so now you start to see inflation happen. The same thing on mass deportation. You have a lot of people who are working under the table or working for a lower pay, because if you think about how I first started off, I can pay you $7.25 an hour because that's way more than what you was making back in the day. Meanwhile, I might be paying everybody else 9, 11, or whatever. But you happy with that because that's more than what you was getting paid back in your home country. But what happens if you start deporting all of these people who are providing all of this labor? That means it's going to cause a labor shortage. And all of a sudden, can that drive up wages now? Because you can't afford to pay some of these people some of these lower salaries. And now all of a sudden, if you're driving up wages and production costs is higher, that's also going to lead to what? Inflation, because it's costing more to produce the goods and services. And so a lot of this stuff sounds good, but economically, it just doesn't make sense. And so there's so much stuff that's kind of happening. And some of this stuff is like, let's just experiment. Let's throw some stuff against the wall and see what sticks, right? And there's something else that's going to happen during Trump's tenure. In 2017, Trump put something in place called the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Okay. So essentially, what this was supposed to be able to stabilize the economy, lower taxes a little bit, incentivize small businesses to go ahead and maybe hire more people because they're paying less taxes and all this. And it was somewhat short lived, right? And so, what really happened is big corporations got a pay raise. What do I mean by this? Corporate taxes used to be 35%, dropped down to 21%. So that means that's a 14% raise some of these big corporations got. Okay. And so then when you look at it on the individual side, it used to be 39.6 was the highest tax bracket we had. And so if you were making anything over 470,000, you were paying 39.6 on anything above that, right? And so when the Tax Cut and Jobs Act happened, he lowered the top tax rate from 39.6 down to 37, and he increased the threshold to 600,000. That means you can make $130,000 more and pay less taxes on that much income. And so that worked well if you understood how to take advantage of what was happening. But unfortunately, that is going to sunset in 2026 unless it's extended. If it sunsets, that means it goes back retroactive to what it was before. And so now, right now,
That's why
Brody,
they've been talking about extending the Trump tax cuts.
yeah, but like it ain't easy as just saying, yeah, we extended it. It doesn't really work that way. And so right now, Brody, the government gives you $14,600 as a standard deduction. Everybody gets that. If you make an income, you get that. So that means you can make $14,600 in income and pay zero taxes on it. Husband and wife gets to combine that. Now it goes up every year for inflation. Okay, so the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is going to cut that back down in half. The child care tax credit is also going to be reduced. So some of these things that have been able to give us a little bit more on our paycheck are going to go backwards. And so you can do nothing different and still be paying more taxes in a couple of years. And so if you're in a 22% tax bracket, you're probably going to feel like 30% increase in your taxes,
Okay.
plus higher inflation. And if your income isn't keeping up with it, there's a lot of little things that you need to be planning for. So if we're talking strategy, let's talk strategy for a second. What do you do in a situation like this? Where are you parking your money? Gold and silver happen to jump up, not quite as much as Bitcoin, but a lot of people are trying to buy physical gold and silver. Now, where you store it is a whole different ball game, because what are you going to do? Just bury it in the backyard? You got a vault inside your home? What are we doing here? And so you need to, number one, try to, of course, reduce your debt if you can. Your mortgage, that's a whole different ball game. But your credit card debt and stuff like that, try to reduce that so you got more cash flow. Okay. You want to have some cash flow that's liquid, so when things come crashing down, you can take advantage of the crash. Most people are only using their 401k as their complete financial universe. When it crashes, you can't pull money out to go invest it anywhere. That would be crazy. Okay. You need a separate account that's maybe not tied to the market, that can still get some performance and some growth. So when the bad stuff happens, we're going to use this advantage of this volatility shield and buy into the market at the lower point, ride that wave up for a little bit, take our money back out, pay ourselves back, and now all of a sudden you're sitting on some cash. And so you want to be thinking about things. Go ahead.
Before, we had talked about the different type of retirements that could pay you back. I researched that and I tried to set up two for my kids, a whole life policy with a cash value. I tried to do that. We're still in the process of it. And you also talked about infinite banking. So are those two of the methods that you're talking about, storing your money?
Yeah, so infinite banking definitely can be a place to store money. Okay. And so you just have to understand, because the term infinite banking, when people hear banking, they only think of one idea of a bank. I put my money in my Wells Fargo account, I put my $1,000 in there, it's $1,000, right? That's not how infinite banking works. Infinite banking is a concept, and you're utilizing a particular designed cash value life insurance policy, typically whole life. Some people will use index universal life, but the original infinite banking policy was designed on a whole life portfolio. But it's not just going out and purchasing whole life. Not all advisors understand how to design an infinite banking policy. And some of those that do don't want to do it because it severely cuts their commission. Okay. And so you need to make sure you're dealing with somebody who understands how to design infinite banking. But that is definitely one of those places you can park your money. Okay. Some people might use a high yield savings account, paying 4.5% right now. Okay. Ally Bank is one of the names that's thrown out there consistently because Ally Bank typically has higher just regular interest rates because they don't have actual storefronts. And so if they don't have brick and mortar storefronts, they don't have all this overhead with real estate and staff and all that. Everything is done online. And so you just need to get outside of your little bubble and start looking at the different things that people are utilizing. Study what the wealthy people are doing. It might be time to find some people who got some money and pull your money together and try to buy an investment property, try to buy some real estate that can cash flow, and then understand how to use the equity and go buy other real estate. And so it has to be more than just putting your money in your 401k and hoping for the best. You need strategies, guys. You need strategies. You need people looking at it. You need a team of people maybe advising you with some of this stuff.
Sounds good. Hey, Brother Zoma, you still there? Yeah, I want to ask you, okay, what is your personal future that you would like to share and you would share with others as far as investing? Is it totally on Bitcoin and crypto, or you have some other ideals also?
Well, that's my
Main area.
my special focus. That's what I can talk about with no notes. But like the brother said, getting your debt paid down, that's big. Getting your debt paid down, your cash flow up, and just get some assets. Bitcoin being my favorite one, but there are other ones. Gold and silver, real estate. Donald Trump gonna make sure the stock market do well. He real hyper focused on the stock market. So we got 4 years that he gonna do what he do.
What is your overall plan with Bitcoin? Are you gonna first of all, where are you at as far as business? You have a Bitcoin business that's strictly for Bitcoin?
I just help people get started. I got I got a few different websites. Some are educational, and some are on ways to acquire Bitcoin. Like I talked about earlier, I don't really excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. I don't really
Understand?
I don't really talk about investing in Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin because I believe that a lot of times people, they don't really have any extra cash or to be investing or to be losing. So I say just earn Bitcoin first. Earn Bitcoin on every dollar you spend while you learn what it is. And you mentioned crypto and all the different coins. I try to steer people away from that because a lot of times people see Bitcoin at 95,000. You got this other coin that somebody just created, just like the guy that shot the CEO of United Healthcare. They created a coin called the Luigi coin. That was the guy.
Oh, man.
They created a coin for that guy, made a bunch of money, and then it's like a pump and dump. They created a coin, they made some money, they sold it. And see, people be trying to do that kind of stuff, but they don't have no Bitcoin. You're trying to get rich, you're trying to get this, this coin costs 10 cents. I can buy, $100 worth of this coin. Just go get you some Bitcoin and stay focused. But what I see is people don't have no Bitcoin. They trying to get rich quick. So that's my whole thing. I keep talking about getting some Bitcoin. That's my number one tip is getsomebitcoin.com. That is simple, straightforward. Go there, get started, and then reach out to me, and I can help you get started as far as the education side of it, the earn while you learn.
So you kind of concentrate on Bitcoin, and that's the main thing. Jeff looks at diversity. So you look at infinite banking, insurance also. What other kind of insurances, Jeff? Whole life we talked about. What are some other ones that would be?
Yeah, I also
What people
use
don't know?
index universal life, right? And so depending on the level of income, like if you make like well over $100,000, you can do something called hybrid financing. You can actually get a loan from a bank to purchase an index universal life. So it's kind of like if you go and you put money in your 401k and you get a company match, the bank is going to match your contributions into this particular strategy. Again, we're talking like, $25,000 is going to be the average, well, on the low end investments you would put in something like this, but you only do it for 5 years. Okay. And then the bank puts in for 5 years. And then years 6 through 10, they put your money and their money in. And so a lot of people are starting to look at ways to leverage money, right? And so I'm an insurance fan because I know what it can do and I know how to use it. But I also like crypto as well. I don't do a whole bunch of stocks, right? The ones that I do hold are dividend paying stocks. So once a quarter, I'm getting a dividend. I also utilize something called a REIT, a real estate investment trust. Okay. A lot of times people want to go into real estate, but maybe real estate ain't your forte, right? So when you think about the earn while you learn concept, I can put my money in a REIT. Somebody else is dealing with the toilets, the termites, the tenants, everything. And now they're sending me a monthly or a quarterly distribution. And so if I want to kind of be in the game, throw 5, 10, 15, 20, 100K over there and just let that money do its thing. Typically, you might be getting paid 4.5 to maybe 7%, right? And so think about if you had 100,000 in there and you getting 6%. Now that's $6,000 a year, about 500 a month. With the way the REITs typically work, that $500 a month is cash flow. Now that might pay for your car note. All right. And so what most people do, they'll go put, I'm gonna go spend, 50,000, I'm gonna buy this car. Why not go put it in an asset that can pay you and pay some bills, right? And so now when you do this, typically when they sell it, they normally pay you 2.5 to maybe, 6%. I mean, a 6X on the back end. And so let's say it was 3. You put 100,000 in, they pay you 300,000 on the back end. So that means you have been getting cash flow this entire time. And then when they exit, you get a check for 300,000. Well, now just reinvest the whole 300,000 at 6%. Now you're making $1,500 a month. And maybe that helps you pay that mortgage off a little bit faster, or start to put more in Bitcoin, create your infinite bank, whatever the case may be. And so leverage is another way that you can kind of win in this next season, is by understanding how to leverage your assets and your money. People who have homes, you might have some equity inside of your home and you can have access to a HELOC. And now, if you understand how to utilize money, right, maybe you use that HELOC to go into other strategies.
Understood. My vision for this year, I'm at least gonna invest, I would say, well, probably even before February, I'm gonna invest $300 in not all Bitcoin, but mostly Bitcoin. 75% of my crypto portfolio is Bitcoin now. But I'm gonna take a chance on some of those other ones rising also. But I'm still gonna invest 75% in crypto. I'm also gonna get 2 retirements for my girls. I found out if I can get it at a very young age, I can still control it, and they will have money built up, and I'm building up cash value. Then when I'm not here no more, they can access that. I think that's called whole life with cash value. And so I'm looking at
Yeah.
both of those, and I would love to get, as you say, a real estate trust. But the thing about that is trying to make sure you find somebody you can trust, that you're working together with. So
Right.
I guess you have to worry about that with all of those things, though, because the banks have crooks too, and
Well, yeah,
so you would have to worry about that with all of those things. Uzoma, what we close to the end of our show. What's your final word about Bitcoin? Where it's going to go? Where is it going to be 5 years from now? And what is your vision of what you're going to do in it?
But before I get there, I don't want to forget to touch on the real estate investment trust that y'all both talked about. Charles Schwab is the company that I deal with. I like them a lot because I can call them 24/7 and they'll be right there to answer my questions. One of the things with the real estate investment trust that I like is buying them. I got one that I really like is VC. It's like a storage company. They invest in storage, but I like them because they pay dividends and then they got options. And a lot of times, once options can kind of be advanced or they can be simple. But when you got a stock or a real estate investment trust that pay options, they got options on them. You can do what's called covered calls, and those covered calls.
Can you share what you mean by options? You talking about just different ways, or it's some kind of specific options? In a real estate trust.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to buy the stock. You can buy. When I'm speaking about covered call, you got to have at least 100 shares of the stock to get a covered call. But the option is like you can buy a smaller amount. Say the stock is $100 a share. You might only put $10 in there or a small amount and just bet on the price increase. So you controlling a certain amount of stock, for a small amount. But with the covered call, it's like you getting rent on your stock. But that's some kind of like advanced stuff. But the covered calls is a good way to bring in some additional income. That's something that you got to study up on. But I love being able to write covered calls on
real estate trust cover calls.
I love being able to write cover calls on my REITs. But as far as Bitcoin goes, I don't really try not to predict the price. I don't know what it's going to do, but I do know. Like I said, every 4 years is always higher. So I do believe it's going to be higher at the end of this presidency, a lot higher than it is right now.
I think so too.
Right now it's around 100K, and I believe it's going to be probably double that right now.
Yeah. I look at that and I'm gonna put some more in and speculate and try to get prepared. That's what it's all about. Because if you have knowledge about how to work with your money, you can make it work for you. I got that from Jeff. So, Jeff, what's your final word?
Practice. Practice. And so some of you might be nervous about stepping out there and trying it. Scared money don't make money, right? And so a game that I often recommend is Rich Dad, Poor Dad's game, Cash Flow. Cash Flow Quadrant. You can literally go play it for free, richdad.com/classic, or you can go buy the board game. And so it's just like when you grew up playing Monopoly, right? Except cash flow is probably going to be more applicable to some of the stuff that we're talking about today. Okay. And so if you are afraid to make that initial investment, go invest in your financial IQ first. Get a little comfortable learning how to play the game, and then go play the game. I hope you catch what I'm saying. Learn how to play the game, play the board game, and then play the game in real life. Just like you can lose on a board game, you can lose in real life. But if you curve that education upward by practicing, learning some of the stuff we're talking about, some of these companies out there will give you $250,000 fake money to let you go practice trading. And so you can see how quickly you can lose it or grow it, right? And so get out there and try some of the stuff. So get a little uncomfortable, get out of that comfort zone and start looking at some of the advanced things that you can do to grow your money, as opposed to just putting it in the stock market, hoping you get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, right? That would be what
Understood.
I would say.
Yes, sir. I just want to share that Dr. Cleo, he had some technical issues. He was trying to come to us from his office, and he had some issues. He apologized, and he hopes to join us next time. A very good guest. We appreciate him. Well, we are at the end. There are some very interesting things that I learned. Coin Market app. Look at that for your Bitcoin and other crypto type of things. It's a good thing to look at to check out the market. Also, we talked about cash value life, infinite banking, real estate cover costs, or real estate trust. That's one I had heard of it before, but I hadn't heard of it in those aspects. So these are some things we were introduced to. And if you want to know more, please get in touch with these gentlemen. Uzoma, where can they get in touch with you?
They can reach me on my website here. It's my digital business card. It's just my name.com, uzamarod.com.
Okay. uzomara.com. All right. Jeff, where can they reach you?
You guys can you can connect with me on social media, Jeff Hill Speaks on Instagram, or HFGINC, which stands for Hill Financial Group, Inc., or pop on my website, thehillfinancialgroup.com, schedule a strategy session with me, and let's talk about what you're trying to do with your overall plans.
Sounds good. All right, guys, I appreciate it. And we're going to continue talking about money. And let's not be scared. That's been one of our fallacies as Black people. We've been scared. And, you know, that was one of the things that the larger community, or the dominant community, I mean dominant because they were in a position of power that they basically hoodwinked, stole, whatever, however you want to put it. But now the setup is much more equal. We have a greater chance of gaining our share if we are not afraid and we build up our financial mindset, our financial wisdom. Let's look forward. Let's go forward. And we're going to be back to talk about it and give you more update, more review, and let you know what's happening in the world of money. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Have a good one.
Peace. All right, guys.